your single site, empower your single site for multi-tenancy services. So my name is Yas. I'm Chief Architect of Cloud working at Docomo Innovations in Sunnyvale in Silicon Valley office of entity Docomo. Docomo is the largest mobile carrier in Japan. Almost half of population of the Japanese people are using Docomo smartphones such as iPhone and Android. My expertise is cloud, DevOps, and agile software development. I'm leading cloud project in Docomo in Silicon Valley. I've been involved in Drupal community for 18 years. So here is our team. Our team members are globally distributed here in California and Japan. Our cloud team is designed as completely virtual, so the team is sustainable during the past hard time. So let me go into Drupal. I'm leading a cloud orchestrator project at Docomo. We have built Cloud Orchestrator as an open source project based on Drupal. So you can search Drupal Cloud Orchestrator. This is one-stop portal which is capable to manage multi-cloud such as AWS, Kubernetes, OpenStack, VMware, and Terraform. So today I'm going to talk about multi-tenancy, since now we are commercializing Cloud Orchestrator in production as a Docomo MEC portal by Drupal. So what is Docomo MEC? So Docomo is a mobile operator. On the other hand, we provide low latency public cloud service called Docomo MEC. MEC stands for Multi-Access Edge Computing, formerly mobile edge computing, to provide the edge access our subscribers. We want to give more innovative user experience to our customers since Docomo provides the 5G network. So think about the use cases such as real-time gaming, AR, VR, self-driving cars, IoT, healthcare, and so on. So we need a multi-tenant architecture for Cloud Orchestrator as a Docomo MEC portal for our mobile customers who use Docomo MEC public cloud infrastructure for edge computing services. So this is today's agenda. So we will first discuss multi-tenancy concept. Then I'll share information on how to set up multi-tenancy in Drupal. We will then look at example of design of multi-tenancy, especially focusing on how to design the SaaS, which is software as a service architecture. And then I'll introduce our solution for deploying our Drupal sites as a multi-tenancy service. This part will cover our approach and the benefits. And then finally, our lead engineer, Baldwin, will present a demo. And then in this demo, he will show how to deploy a Drupal site as a single tenant as multi-tenancy service. Then multi-tenancy concept. The main differences between site and the tenant are the concept of membership or organization. When we built a community site by Drupal, the target organization for the membership is basically single for one organization. So this is just a single site. On the other hand, the tenant shares the resources such as web application server, database, and static files and assets. The tenant concept and architecture are used for SaaS, software as a service, as like Slack and Gmail, Salesforce, and so on. So now let me start with site and tenant as a part of multi-tenancy concept, because we need to distinguish site and tenant. I'll show you the architecture in one slide from now on, and it may confuse you because it will be a little complicated, but I hope you can follow my presentation. The first one is single site architecture. Or when we have a user A, B, and C, we have application servers such as Drupal and the database, When those users access the site named site1.example.com, Drupal is running as an application server to handle request and response. We have the database called site1. So this is a simple minimum architecture of single site in Drupal. Then let's expand single site to multi-site. We have user A, B, and C like a single site. There is an application server and a database. Those users can access site1.example.com. Drupal responds to those users by getting the contents from the database named site1. When the user accesses site2.example.com, it is the same process as site1.example.com, but the database instance is different from site1. That is site2. Site3.example.com is the same. As you may know, we can deploy multiple sites with a single Drupal instance with different database instances. I'll cover how to set it up Drupal for multi-site after this architecture discussion. And so we see the single site and the multi-site. And single site is so simple as the traditional typical Drupal site. And the multi-site is the deployment for the different site for different purpose. So now let's move on to tenant concept. Here is the single tenant. In the context of IT, a tenant refers to an individual user or organization that uses and operates within a shared system, such as a cloud-based service. Each tenant has its own secure and isolated space within the system, which it can manage independently from others. Now we have tenants such as A, B, and C. Also, we have an application server and a database. Tenant A is now accessing site1.example.com. Then Drupal gets contents from the database named site1 in this case. Tenant B accesses site2.example.com to get the same content as tenant A, since we are now discussing single tenant model architecture. Note that there is another dedicated database instance called site1 to serve the content to tenant B. What we want to discuss here is site1.example.com, site2, and 3 basically provide the same services at the same site for each tenant, but those sites are serving the same contents to the different customer groups, such as tenant A, B, and C. Remember, the multi-site has a concept and architecture to deploy different sites under different purpose. But single tenant model aims to provide basically the same service for each tenant. Then let's move on to multi-tenant. We have tenant A, B, and C, application server, and a database. This time in multi-tenant model, the URL is the same for all tenants. That is, tenant A, B, and C access the same URL, site1.example.com. Tenant A accesses site1.example.com from the single database instance for site1 service. Tenant B is the same as tenant A by using the same instance shared among the tenants. Note that tenant A and B are using the same computing and storage resources, such as an application server and a database. Tenant C is as well access the shared resource like the application server and the database. So this is a summary of single, multi-site, and tenants. Multi-site and multi-tenant architecture differ in resource allocation and data isolation. Multi-site uses separate instances for different purpose or locations, while multi-tenant allows multiple users or organizations to share a secure instance. So let's move on to how to set up in Drupal for multi-site. I think you are familiar with single site deployment by Drupal. So Drupal has the special directory /site/default under Drupal root directory. We will modify setting.php file to point to its database instance. So how can we set up multi-site in Drupal? If we want to deploy site1.example.com, create a directory site1.example.com under /sites directory, which is the same level directory of /site/default. And we set up settings.php under site1.example.com directory. If we also want to deploy site2.example.com, then just create site2.example.com directory under /sites and modify settings.php for site2 database instance. Site3example.com is similar setup. So let's move on to single tenant setup. The configuration is very similar to multi-site. That is, we create site1example.com directory under /sites directory. The site2example.com is the same way to set up. Site3example.com is as well. But in this case, all settings.php are pointing to separate site1 database instance, which are independently deployed. So what about multi-tenant configuration in Drupal? After our research of Drupal community, we think we have unfortunately no solution by contributed module to enable Drupal as a real multi-tenant site. So how we can design the multi-tenancy? Let's discuss the concept and the architecture for multi-tenancy. The first type of multi-tenant architecture is database per tenant. That is, this is a single tenant model. By using Drupal, multi-site configuration is easy to convert to this purpose because we can set up multi-site with the separate databases. In short, we can just copy the database site1 of tenant A for tenant B and C. The second one is shared database and shared schema. Maybe we can achieve this architecture by using such as organic group module, but I think it is still difficult to accommodate the multi-tenant. We could use Drupal role feature and organic group module, but I don't think it is enough to build SaaS application site. So the last one is shared database and shared schema. This is a real multi-tenancy architecture, but it would be most difficult to implement the architecture based on Drupal, since Drupal is not designed for this architecture. Maybe we could cloud native application using such as AWS Lambda and DynamoDB or microservices architecture can be a good candidate for the technical decision to build a multi-tenant site, especially using the database portion using the DynamoDB. So here is the pros and cons among 4 types of site deployments. So I aligned the criteria, non-functional requirements besides functional requirements in my earlier slide. Single site is most simple and basic, so that I put all check marks. Multi-site and single tenant have the similar characteristics from the non-functional point of view, and the real multi-tenant site will be superior to operation and cost. I think it is difficult to implement, especially security and disaster recovery feature in a real multi-tenant model, because all tenants and users are especially depending on the shared database. So if the database stops working or collapses, it is so difficult to recover if we don't use the partitioning or sharding techniques. or we can use NoSQL or NewSQL database solution for multi-tenant model for the storage or data store. Okay, so let's move on to our solution. So we have tenant A, B, and C as docomo MEC customers, and we want to give them the Cloud Accelerator as the docomo MEC portal for each tenant. In order to accommodate those tenants, we newly developed the Façade module in Drupal to deploy multi-sites as single tenant. We deploy Façade portal site onto AWS. First, the tenant A accesses a portal site powered by Façade module. Then the customer of tenant A starts onboarding process for Cloud Accelerator as a docomo MEC portal. After tenant A input the required information to Façade module, then Façade module starts to prepare to deploy a single site for tenant A by using AWS CloudFormation. As well as tenant A, tenant B accesses Façade portal, then it deploys a single site for tenant B as site2.example.com with the same database schema as site 1. Tenant C as well, Façade portal deploys site3 example.com for tenant C with site 1's database schema. Then the Façade portal gives and tell URL to tenant A, B, and C after CloudFormation stack deploy is completed. So now all tenants have their own Cloud Accelerator as a docomo MEC portal. As the next step, we are planning Façade module version 2 for the architecture for the deployment with more shared resources, because the current Façade module is a kind of a POC of multi-tenant architecture deployment. So tenant A, B, and C, these guys access Amazon Elastic Container Service, that is a ECS. In order to share the resources, we put /sites directory for each tenant into Amazon Elastic File System, that is EFS, like NFS for Linux. And the container can mount the /sites directory for the configuration, static file, and assets for Drupal. For the backend database, we use Amazon RDS. So we upgrade Façade module in next couple of months. So I'll explain how it works. Tenant A accesses Façade portal for onboarding process for Cloud Accelerator as a docomo MEC portal. Façade portal will create a database instance into Amazon RDS and also create /sites directory onto Amazon EFS for tenant A. Then when tenant A accesses site1 example.com, the container for application server by Drupal accesses EFS by mounting the storage where the mount point is /sites directory and Amazon RDS for the database instance for site 1. Tenant B onboarding process is the same as tenant A. Façade portal creates the resources onto AWS for configuration on EFS and the database instance on RDS. Then tenant B can access site2example.com. Tenant C is as well. Façade portal creates the resources for tenant C. Then tenant C can access site3example.com. So the container mounts the /site directory on EFS and accesses the database on RDS. So now tenant A, B, and C can access Cloud Accelerator as a docomo MEC portal based on AWS services such as ECS, RDS, and EFS. Okay, so I'll hand over the screen share to Baldwin to give you the demo for Façade portal to deploy single tenant. Okay, so Baldwin, can you switch the screen?
Yeah, let me see. I cannot share while you are sharing. So you need
okay.
to stop sharing first.
Okay.
Hold on. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, I need to quit Zoom and come back. I'm sorry.
Okay. Maybe security on the Mac, I think. Okay, he's coming back.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me share my screen. Share my whole desktop. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to show a demo about how to set up the Façade module and to use it to launch our application cloud orchestrator. So I have a test site here, and before I enable the Façade module, I need to configure and tell my site about my cloud services. Since we're using AWS and OpenStack for our demo, I would need to tell the system about it. Before this demo, I already preset up some AWS regions and OpenStack region. So you don't have to watch me type any of this information, but I just let you take a quick look at what that information is. It's basically all your access for hitting the APIs for AWS and OpenStack. When that's completed, I'm going to go enable my Façade modules. The important one for our demo here is OpenStack provider and Façade. All right, once those are enabled, I will go in and configure Façade module before we do any tenant launching. So here's the configuration screen for Façade. As you can see, there's a little bit of stuff that we need to enter. First, we need to select some OpenStack regions. This module lets an administrator choose which regions tenant users can see or not see, or select from or not select from. So in our case, I'm just going to select both of them. And then we want to tell the system which AWS region we will deploy our cloud orchestrator into. And for my case, I'm going to choose Oregon. And then I have some VPC information that's specific to CloudFormation and how a public user can access the site. And then finally, we give users some options to fine-tune the CloudFormation launch parameter. So you can choose an instance type, which version of Cloud Orchestrator to pull from. And since we're running an RDS for our database, you can choose the RDS instance type, which MariaDB version we want to use. So let's say I'm just going to go with 10.6. And I will save. Once that is completed, we will have a tenants page for every user. And I'm going to add a tenant. I will give it a name. So I'll explain this in a second. So username is how I will access my cloud orchestrator after its launch, and the email address as well. This email, you will get a notification at this email when Cloud Orchestrator completes building. And I want to let my Cloud Orchestrator manage these two OpenStack regions for me. And I am going to save. And when I save, it will make a bunch of calls to Amazon and launch your instance. So you can see that it's starting to go. It tells you that, okay, you'll get an email at this email address when it's completed. And you can see that the process is being built. And to show that it's happening in real time, we'll see that over in Amazon, this stack is being built. The stack takes about 20 minutes to build, so I'm not going to sit here and wait 20 minutes to click a link. So I have a pre-built tenant. On another site, and this is called Camp Tenant. And when the site's completed, you'll see that there's additional information displayed on how you can access the website. So we can access this Cloud Orchestrator from this URL, and also I have an email that comes in, and once you have this email, you can click on the link and go to that Cloud Orchestrator. So, and I'm going to click through. And we'll see that we have this Cloud Orchestrator, and we are managing OpenStack 1 and OpenStack 2. And then you are free to go off and do whatever you want to these instances. And that concludes my demo. I will pass it back to Yas, and we'll take questions.
Okay, thank you. Share. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your demo, Baldwin. Here's the summary of this presentation. So lessons from Cloud Orchestrator. By the way, can you hear me? Yeah. So lessons from Cloud Orchestrator development for docomo MEC portal. We came up with our solution like a Façade module that Baldwin showed as a demo. So this is to deploy the existing single site as a single tenant by developing Façade module. So, and also convert the single tenant's web application server to a multi-tenant resource sharing model. As a result, our solution is a kind of hybrid multi-tenant architecture in between single tenant and a multi-tenant. So in the last part of my presentation, I'll give you the resources that you find the information. So please visit our website and learn about the Cloud Orchestrator and the Façade module, and also subscribe YouTube channel. Please contact me if you want to use a Cloud Orchestrator in your project and organization. And any development contributions are welcome at cloudproject@drupal.org. So thank you for joining and listening to my presentation, my session.